Hey everyone, Raptorspank here, and today we have Metacheck, October 20th. This is the show where I look at the meta, talk about a couple of decks I find interesting, and then play a quick game of each of those decks. I hope you like Bilgewater because we are looking at 3 of those decks. But first, some quick points on the meta right now. Right now, the meta is honestly fairly unhealthy in my opinion, as it's a very rock, paper, scissors meta. Wins are often determined by matchmaking luck a little more than skill, because it's just one deck hard slams the next deck, which then hard slams another deck, which then hard slams the first deck, is the problem. It's basically FS control beats burn, beats Lee Sin, beats FS control. There's obviously exceptions, but that's more or less the way the meta works, which in my opinion is a little unhealthy, since it's just you don't want it to ever be where you're just totally doomed in matchups, and then you just get that really like, hey, maybe I hit the bad matchup, maybe I hit the good matchup, and that's really what's going to determine how high I grind rather than how I play. However, if you like a certain type of deck, you have options. So at least that's good about the meta right now. It's like if you like aggro decks, there's Bilgewater Burn. If you like mid-range decks, there's TF Swain. If you like control, there's the Freljord Shadow Isle variants. And if you like combo, there is the Lee Sin deck. It's still here. Problem is, we got a bunch of new cards with the recent expansion, and there's very, very few decks that really heavily use those cards that have made any impact. They're still just getting crushed by last patch's meta, or last expansion's meta, essentially. Lee Sin is still way too broken. Hopefully the next balance patch really brings some of the stuff in line, because it's gotten very out of control. And honestly, Lee Sin's the biggest problem. There's a lot of nerfs I'd like to see. I think Bilgewater Burn probably deserves it. I would love to see TF Swain get nerfed, just because of the fact that it's been here since the beginning of Rising Tides, and it's still at the top of the meta. So I would love to see that, but that deck's definitely the most balanced of the 4. Aside from, I mean, Freljord Shadow Isle control is not too bad either, but the Lee Sin deck really crushes the meta. There's a lot of neat decks that are vaguely competitive that you could really try to get away with, but Lee Sin just hard slams the matchup. It's just too fast, too consistent, and too resilient to removal. But in an effort to look outside of this kind of perfect circle of decks beating each other, I want to look at or highlight some of the more fringe decks, as well as look at the TF Swain deck, because I do think it breaks the rock, paper, scissors a little bit. I don't think it gets hard slammed by any of the matchups. I think Lee Sin is his weakest matchup, but I think it has a decent chance against all of the decks, so I want to highlight that deck. Plus, some people asked about it, so I want to give my views on that deck and show a quick game of it. So, without further ado, let's look at TF Swain. TF Swain is a mix of aggro and control to complete a powerhouse mid-range shell. It plays control into aggro with strong removal and stall creatures, and then it plays aggro into control with low-cost creatures combined with TF, Zap, and Salvage to keep your hand full. Scorched Earth is there primarily to deal with combo decks, whether that's trying to kill a damaged Lee Sin or a Star Spring, it doesn't really matter. It's just mostly there to deal with the weirder threats that we can run into. And then Swain Leviathan closes our game out with as our primary win condition. Riptide's there to serve as a board wipe, particularly against other mid-range decks, or even against Burn if you can buy yourself enough time to get to it. Often plays slow as a build-up towards the Swain Leviathan lock, so your early game's often spent just basically doing the bare minimum to stay alive and stay up, but sometimes in certain matchups you are just gas-pedaling your opponent. The big problem with the deck is that it struggles against Lee Sin, where our removal is kind of weak, because the only things that really kill him only kill him before he starts getting pumped, and then we have to start using multiple removal spells on him. So Scorched Earth is our best way to deal with him, as long as we can get at least 1 point of damage through. But with things like Bastion and Deny and Nopify, they have so many ways to deal with it that trying to thread one through all that removal is nearly impossible. It is pretty good into aggro, though, where our removal lines up really well against particularly stuff like Discard Aggro, where Make It Rain can kill their entire board, essentially, and Twisted Fate also dealing 1 damage as a board wipe is pretty big, and we can always Dreadweight Deckhand into Twisted Fate to kill even more things. So it does pretty well into aggro, and then it's decent into control, since we have a lot of low aggressive creatures that we can play, that we could start putting the pressure on our opponent fairly early, and can draw removal from our opponent, essentially, to clear the way for Swain and Leviathan. Next up, we have Bilgewater Spring combo. This is a neat combo deck with a unique win condition. Its focus is on hurting their own units and healing them. The primary win condition is Star Spring, which turns the unit heals into wins, essentially, and constantly heals our units, so that by itself is really good. A lot of low-cost, high-power units essentially helps to speed up our clock into bad matchups, or honestly, into any matchup, since we are playing things like the uh, the Codger that comes down as a 1-mana 2/2, but we can heal it up to a 2/4, or the Boxtopus, which is a 2-mana 3/4 with Challenger. There's a lot of really aggressive creatures in this deck, and especially if we can keep healing them and keeping them alive, it lets us really run our opponent down at times. And then Tom works as a solid control piece to keep our opponent's board under control. He can keep clearing away units very, very well. It's particularly good into things like Bilgewater Burn. That's where he shines the brightest, essentially. We have a lot of healing that can always be pointed at the Nexus too, which makes the aggro matchup even better as well. Our low removal, though, is the biggest weak point of the deck because it makes us weak to significant threats, things like Lee Sin or Swain, stuff like that. And then we have a hard time blocking fearsome units since basically Boxtopus or a Star Shepherd plus healing is the only thing that would allow us to block fearsome units, so that can be pretty bad for us into certain matchups. It's strong against Burn, but weak to Lee Sin. Their kill is quicker than our kill, essentially, and we don't have any real way to remove Lee Sin. It's just Tom Kench or bust, and they have so many ways of dealing with that. Since the Tom Kench thing isn't a skill, it's a spell, they can nopify it, so they have lots of ways to prevent us from dealing with their unit. Then we have BSI Deep Monsters. This is kind of a mid-range / control deck. It uses removal and stall creatures to buy time into massive late game. It looks to hit deep as fast as possible to enable huge sea monsters. Runs Maokai essentially as a kill shot for control decks. There's lots of life gain to contest Burn. The new Slaughter Docks card is a great toss engine that flips into a win condition on its own. It is weak into Lee Sin, though, where removal is too expensive to double up to get around Deny or Nopify. I mean, we generally get around Nopify anyways, since most of our stuff costs over 3. But if they have Deny, then essentially it's basically impossible for us to fire 2 in one turn to get around that. Our best chance, I guess, is to land a Nautilus that's deep, then play Devourer the next turn, plus something like Vengeance, but the chance that we live that long is incredibly low. The mix of fearsome and elusive threats, as well as Challenger, makes for a very diverse threat profile, essentially. It's very hard for opponents to deal with this because it could be hard for them to block fearsomes like the 13/13 Nautilus, or hard for them to block elusives like the Abyssal Eyes, or even if they can block everything we have so many Challengers in that deck, from Saplings to the Jaw Hunters, that could basically force them to block in the best possible way for us, so we can get around a lot of decks that way. But like I said, it's pretty good into aggro. It's fine into control, to even favorite into control because of the Maokai edition, but it's really weak into Lee Sin deck, which has been a common factor with all 3 of the decks we've covered. But finally, we're leaving Bilgewater for a dash of aggro with NPC Draven Jinx Discard. This has extraordinarily fast kills. Elusives plus Chompers help to force damage through, even with a big board on our opponent's side or blockers. So many discard upsides means no downsides to discarding usually. This helps us to build a board incredibly fast, then leverage things like Battlecaster or Vision to boost damage on our whole board. Crowd favorite Draven and Jinx all serve as great finishers for the decks. Jinx level up is really easy to reach in this deck and provides a massive card draw and burn engine. This is insanely weak to control, though, because cards like Withering Wail, Avalanche, Make It Rain, all of these things just totally destroy our deck. Twisted Fate, for example, because all of our units have 1 health usually, the only exceptions being those 3 big payoffs, and then Battlecaster and Chompers have 2 health, but that's really not much more, so it's very easy for our opponent to kill all or most of our units, so that is our biggest weak point. However, this is the one deck that we're talking about that actually works pretty well into Lee Sin, since the Poros can go over, our win is super fast, so it's hard for them to deal with that. Chompers can pull away certain blockers, so we can force damage through. Crowd favorite rips through pretty much any unit they have, while probably surviving if we play them into a big enough board. Draven Jinx makes it hard for them to block because of the quick attack. This is just, in general, a good alternative to Bilgewater Burn that's rising in play rate, but is very, very fragile, much more fragile than the Bilgewater Burn deck. So this is just a neat way to play aggro if you don't like Bilgewater Burn. Now let's check out some of these decks in action. Alright. Against Tito Lock with the TF Swain midrange. Interesting, interesting. Not necessarily a horrible matchup for us. Ooh, I like Ravenous Flock. I like Scorch Earth. Can I keep both though? Maybe not. All right, I'll keep this much. Swain should be kind of good in this matchup. I should be really good in the matchup. They should have a pretty hard time removing him. Oh lord, turn one Teemo though, and we're missing removal. Well, hopefully we can find one of our 3 death hands. Or we'll just keep drawing all the high costs in the deck. Oh no. Dear lord. Well, sometimes your deck does not work as intended. This is definitely the worst half of this deck that you could possibly see. At least we get to play Twisted Fate next turn. Nope, we're just gonna play play Twisted Fate and red card.
I'm always up for a round or two.
Probably looking to Swain next turn. We deal with the Teemo, so that's pretty good.
I got ways to find me mushroom.
Okay. Can't really do much about that. I think we just pass. And look to Swain this turn. Not sure we really want to salvage. Yeah, we'll block here. Twisted Fate actually could be really bad for us.
Loyalty through conquest.
No, now we can kill, we can kill Chump Wump. Yeah, I think we're gonna go for that. I think we'll kill Chump Wump here. And then we'll look to Twisted Fate next turn.
Oh, that's a harvest right there.
Yeah, it's gonna get real scary real quick. We're gonna have to kill our opponent fairly quickly or else we're gonna die to these puff caps. I mean, we're actually, as crazy as this is, we're very close to leveling Swain up. Man. This is sketchy. In case he's holding Sejuani. Oh lord, she's already up at 4 out of 5. That's woo! Oh wow, he actually let that hit. Oh, that's good. Red card, gold card. I guess we're red carding. We have to kill our opponent, so we have to deal a bunch of damage. Are we willing to draw cards? That's the real question. I don't know that the answer is yes. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the answer is no. Alright, well, Swain level up. That's good at least. The question is, can we deal damage to our opponent next turn? How much? Wow! Alright, perfect. Oh, and we can kill Teemo. That is quite good. I think we will just stun him, though. We're probably looking to Leviathan. Let's see if he goes to combat. I'm perfectly okay with that. Can I cast both these? I can cast both these? Okay. Ooh, or I can Twisted Fate. Is that worth it? Twisted Fate plus Gold Card, I think.
Deal me in.
Kill one of his big guys, then use Death Hand to kill the other. And then potentially I get to attack with Swain. Because if we can get a Swain hit in, we're in fairly good shape. That's unfortunate. Alright. Well, let's try to kill... Actually, I suppose it's better to do Scorched Earth. Oh yeah, if we kill... Yeah. This still works. This still works. Alright. Yep. Let's see if he has another fearsome blocker. Or if we die to mushrooms on our next turn. What's he got? Okay. I don't know why our opponent hates Twisted Fate so much. Like, him killing Twisted Fate is such a terrible misplay that it's just crazy. I mean, he should want us to... Like, there's no reason. He should want us to have Twisted Fate. If we level him up, he's going to draw more cards, which is going to kill us more. So it's really, really weird that he cares that much about it. Oh, we actually can win with Riptide Rex here. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think that's game. I was going to play Leviathan, but I think we just won here. Yeah, that's game. That's 7 Cannon Barrages for lethal. There we go. All right, and we got there. Very, very sketchy, but we got there in the end. Doesn't really matter that our opponent killed Twisted Fate, but yeah, in that matchup, like, if you're T to lock, you definitely want Twisted Fate to live, because Twisted Fate level up is going to kill me faster than it kills them. Because, like, the drawing me cards is going to deal so much damage from shrooms that the red card doesn't do nearly the same amount of damage to him. So, yeah. Weird that he chose that so much. At that point, he couldn't have killed Swain with the Thermo, but knowing that he had Thermo, it's really, really weird that he didn't just save the mana to kill Swain. But, yeah, alright, we got there. Alright, so Bilgewater Spring here, and it looks like we're going to be against some sort of dragon mid-range, maybe? That's weird. Really weird to not run Shyvana in that. Yeah, so this is gonna be weird. I like Crusty Codger. Divergent Pass is probably... I mean, it depends on whether we want to go for the... I mean, it does get a Spring. Alright, you know what? We'll keep this. We'll keep this whole grip. I think having these relatively large early cost units are pretty strong, and Broadback can gain us a bunch of health eventually, so... unless they're running Divergent Path, they don't have a way to deal with Starspring. We are a little punished there for keeping... for waiting for a Divergent Path. Alright, we'll play Box to Post here, I think. Maybe that was the turn to get Starspring down, but... Alright, we get a free attack in. They've got to be playing Dragons. If they did nothing turn 1, turn 2, that means they're playing Dragons. There's just no way. Alright, and then we'll play Starspring. We're looking to play Starspring plus Crusty Codger this turn. But we have this Hush in case he has something that's really problematic. Okay, draw 2 different dragons. Alright, we're good. We're good. We can play Crusty Codger. With no cost cheapeners that he's had so far, that means he can't actually play any dragons this turn, so... Alright, start to get our spring going here. We're going to go straight to combat and then play other things. We don't want to let our opponent play anything. This is a ton of damage to get up. And that's one of the better parts of Bilgewater Spring, is that you can threaten them this heavily. Oh man, this Hush is going to be brutal for our opponent, and he just doesn't even know it yet. Oh no. Because we can block the Crusty Codger, it'll live, he won't get the Loyal Badger Bear off it. That's pretty brutal. Also, so is this Guiding Touch. Oh, that's fine. Yeah, so we'll play Broadback then, I think. Yeah, we'll play Broadback.
Just another day in Targon. Time to get rowdy.
And we'll Hush. He could always single combat with Garen to save the Grizzled Ranger, but yeah, the goal here is to put him in bad shape. Alright, we'll block with Broadback. And we'll heal him, just to get a little bit extra, and so he doesn't die. Well, he wouldn't have died, I suppose, anyways. Oh, wow, yeah. We are in fairly good shape here. Do we want to play anything first? And do we want to go for damage here? Because we could do 7 damage, but then we level up his Garen.
Ready for anything.
I don't know if that's worth it. Because, I mean, we are fairly close to killing our opponent. But it's very debatable of whether that's worth it. Or if we just want to go for the spring. We're gonna go for this. We have our opponent to such a low health point.
Press the advantage.
A win streak.
And it doesn't actually give our opponent an extra attack yet.
Aye, is dinner on you then?
Maybe I should have actually killed this Boxtopus. That's the biggest mistake we made there, is that I probably should have... Alright, you know what, we'll play this. I should have had this Boxtopus die and left the one that was damaged so that we would have gotten even more Star Spring. Oh, we are very close on our first Star Spring.
Oh, I don't require menu.
Crusty Codger's not bad.
Here we go.
Do we hush that? I think we might. Yeah. Yeah, I think we hush that. He might have a bigger threat coming out. That's the biggest reason to not necessarily pull Hush on Grizzled Ranger. He's got to have some sort of fight spell. There's no way he doesn't. I don't think we want to do Acquired Taste yet.
Charge!
Yep, assumed he was going to attack. We can actually take that hit. Yeah, I mean, we can take that hit. Do we go for this? That's the real question. Do we go for this? I think we do. And we'll try to eat Dragon Guard Lieutenant. See if he has the fight spell. And if he does, then we just play Crusty Codger. Okay. Yep. No, that's one fight spell down now. We're really close to either win right now. If our opponent has a Divergent Pass, that's gonna be such a blowout out of nowhere. We'll see. I'm wondering. I have a feeling they have Relentless Pursuits, and that's one of the big things they're thinking about right now. Is rallying and attacking again, which would force us to block. Rally spell, Relentless Pursuit. Another combat, an attack spell, maybe? Ah, he does have it. Okay. Alright. Not bad. So, we assume he kills one of our Crusty Codgers? Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess we could do this, right? Risky, but if he has single combat... But if he doesn't have single combat, we'll heal him twice. Alright, perfect. I mean, he's gonna kill himself here, I think. Yeah, he's gonna kill himself here, but... But we are very, very close. Is it even worth playing her? Don't think so. Man, that's a question.
I weave my own.
I guess this draws us a card, and that alone makes it worth it.
Every step, a new journey.
Let's see what he plays. That's the big question. Or I suppose he can just go straight to combat. Oh, he's gonna hush her. Yeah, that is bad. What does he go for? That's the question.
Board.
We can get ourselves to 1 off from healing by attacking with Boxtopus and getting hit by Herald.
I hear the cosmos howling through her.
Okay. So we go like this, we pull Herald, that gains us some more damage.
As foretold.
So that'll heal too. Oh no, and he loses.
Go no further.
Now we win. He needed to not attack there. Alright, and that's game. That's the 3 we need to win off this Star Spring. Yep. Alright, well there you have it. And that's the power of Star Spring. And you can see we even had our opponent down to 5 health. So they managed to stabilize the board, but then we had Star Spring. So it's the combination of both. The high aggression as well as the combo kill off Star Spring really gives you an edge in a lot of matchups. So yeah, not too bad for a first look at that. Alright. Well, interesting. Shyvana would make me think dragons, but Mono Demacia seems Demacia mid-range, just running Shyvana as the other champion. This seems like a potentially decent matchup for our deck, but hard to say. I think we're going to keep this turbo deep, and then Abyssal Eye does get past basically any of their blockers, so I think that's worth it. We might prefer something with 3 power, though. Ooh, okay. Slaughter Doc's pretty solid here. The one nice thing is our opponent is Mono Demacia. That means they have no answer to Slaughter Dogs. We already know that. They have no answer. There's nothing in their deck. So that's fantastic. And since they're on the turn 1 Fleet Feather, we're even better with Dredgers, preventing that from attacking. And we'll swing with this. Nautilus could be really good, but when they're Mono Demacia like that, I'm almost certain they have Detain. Or something that produces Detain. That's just almost a guarantee. So Nautilus is a little bit scary from that perspective. Ooh, that might change us from playing Slaughter Dogs this turn. We will see. You know what? I think I'm fine playing Slaughter Dogs. This is weird. This is weird, but honestly, his spells costing 1 more is not that bad for us. I mean, yeah, these are now bricked, essentially, but that's, yeah, that's pretty good. We will actually run this Maokai out, so that next turn we can play this, and, should be able to, hopefully. Hopefully we don't lose Maokai, so we get to play this Abyssal Eye before they attack. Garen. Okay. That's fine. We'll play Abyssal Eye. This Stony Suppressor could be a problem eventually here, but right now we're not terribly worried. Question is whether we throw away this Thorny Toad. Yeah, I think going deep is more important than being able to gain health off that, or life off that. And we lose the 2 life gain, but essentially it gained us 4 life. So that's not actually that bad for us. We're pretty close to deep, so that is where we want to be. Withering Whale, that's fine. That's awful in this matchup, especially with Stony Suppressor out. Do we play the other Abyssal Eye? Yes. I think we do. Because now we get a sapling, even if he can kill these Abyssal Eyes. We're pretty close to deep, so that is really good. Do we actually kill Stony Suppressor? Well, I mean, we can't kill it, but... Yeah, I guess we kill Fleet Feather. We want to be able to choose our own blocks. Oh, wow, he doesn't have a kill spell? That's weird. He either doesn't have a kill spell or he's crazy for letting us draw those cards and get those hits in. Alright, I mean, we still have blockers, and he doesn't have a way to prevent us from blocking. And next turn, we're set up to play a deep Nautilus, so... We're in decent shape. Maokai's pretty close to leveling up, too. And now we have... Whoa! Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, that was the best possible draw. Oh, my lord. Yeah, I mean... Yeah. Yeah, that was our best draw. That was our best possible draw. Oh, lord, and we get... That's just rude, man. Oh, yeah, he's... Yeah. It's not looking good for our opponent. I'm gonna be real honest. It's not looking great. Yeah, we'll swing out here. I can mill his deck with this salvage.
I stand ready.
His Stony Suppressor does actually make this treasure trove really bad. Ooh, lord. Yeah, I mean, we have to kill that in response then, right? Yeah, that's our best play. He shouldn't be able to do anything about that. Stony Suppressor doing a lot of work, but we can still cast this Vengeance. Yep. I figured he'd probably scoop to that. He was in pretty bad shape at that point. Yep. Alright, well, there you go. Deep Monster's doing its thing. And yeah, that was a weird deck from our opponent. Kind of spicy, kind of like it, but Stony Suppressor I don't think is really a great card right now. I could see it being a lot better if they ever make a game mode where you have a sideboard and you can bring it into games 2 and 3. But main board, we actually would have loved to be able to cast our spells at 1 less, but it still didn't do enough for our opponent. So I don't think it's a really great include, but what we did see is that Slaughterdox is phenomenal in this deck. I love it. It's great. Yeah, definitely a good addition that came with Monuments of Power. All right, discard aggro against Sejuani Darius midrange-y sort of deck. It's probably like a kind of aggro midrange. I expect to see stuff like Reckoning, etc. Get Excited's kind of bad here. Visions could be good, so I'll keep Flame Chompers plus Draven plus Visions. Ooh, Poro Cannon's not bad. Probably actually Poro Cannon now. Yeah, we'll Poro Cannon, pitch Flame Chompers. We're looking for turn 3 Draven at this point, so we're looking for Draven turn 3 with Spinning Axe, pitching Vision. Oh wow, okay, he's way more aggro than we thought he'd be. Okay, so this is a Darius aggro deck that's running Sejuani. Got it.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. That's what it is. No, I think we don't block. I think we'd rather be the aggro deck here. What's the chance that our opponent's playing Avalanche? Probably pretty low. Alright, and we play the Draven. The question is whether we want to trade with any of our opponent's things. Since we have Crowd Favorite next turn, we kind of don't. Yeah, I think we go like that. Chances are our opponent is going to block. Kind of weird if they didn't, and we're okay with it if they don't. Because we can always Spinning Axe, pitch Vision at any point. And if we don't do it this turn, then we get to play Crowd Favorite and do it. Yeah, I expected that. I expected that much. it helps them level up their Sejuani, so it'd be really weird if they didn't go for that this turn. And we're almost caught up in the aggro race right now. Hopefully they play something next turn before attacking, so we can play Crowd Favorite and then still block some of these things, because we don't really want them to have Saboteur any longer.
My turn.
Alright, well, we'll take that much. It is really a lot better for us to get this Crowd Favorite down at max size. Okay. We may actually be able to win this turn. As weird as that sounds. Let's see. Yeah, I think we're going to full swing here. And pull this over to here. So we kill Saboteur. I mean, we are very scared of a Darius turn next turn. It was tempting to actually Poro Cannon to give us more Poros to attack with. Alright, that has him to 4 in theory. Alright, and I think that is game. I think that is game. I suppose we should have put the axe on someone else because Draven's still dead here. Oh Lord, we should have. That might cost us the game. Oops. All right, well, our opponent's down to a low total. Oh, we leveled him up at least before he died, but our opponent should be dead now, and we screwed that one up quite a bit.
I'll try anyone.
Is this the part where we cycle? No, we'll pass. If we pull a burn spell off the top, we're fine, and we can probably block.
Pain is not
Okay, all right, that was the least scary 6-drop that he could have. And I don't think he even kills this Crowd Favorite, is the nice part for us. So we'll play Zonite Urchin, pitch the Flame Chompers.
got me good.
Okay, that's one of our better draws.
Stand and fight.
I mean, he can't kill Crowd Favorite right now. That's the important thing. He can't kill Crowd Favorite. Okay, so then we block here, block there. Go to 2? Well, that's scary. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to, I think, well, I guess Fan's not really worth that much then. So we're going to pitch Fan, make a bunch more Flying Poros, and we're going to keep Spinning Axe so that we can boost damage. We don't want the Draven anymore because most of their removal, or most of their burn spells are going to be at slow speed. So let's see if they have Fervor. They need Fervor to win here. Or I suppose double, what was that, Blade's Edge? But if they have Decimate, we live. So it's, do they have Fervor? I think they do. Death's Hand, Death's Hand? Wow, alright, yeah, they got it. Poor play on their part here, because now if we have removal, we can kill them. But lucky for them, we don't have it. Never do this, though, because now if I have Get Excited as one of my last cards, I can cast Get Excited targeting his Nexus, and I win. Whereas, I mean, I suppose if he, like, Death's Hand wasn't enough, but he should have just Fervored and left the other mana up, because that would have made it so he could have cast the other spell in response. Because I could have had Fervor too, and anything that I could have Fervored, I suppose not Crowd Favorite, but basically don't put more spells on the stack than you ever need to. It's just going to cost you, potentially. You'll lose games off that. But lucky for our opponent, we didn't find the burn. We were hoping to, but couldn't find it off our cycles. So, oh well, that's Discard Aggro for you. All right, so just looking back at the 4 decks we looked at and played today, and seeing how they did in this meta. A couple of them are more tier 1 decks, but I avoided some of the really big decks that people have been playing at the moment. I just wanted to look at some of the newer or fringer decks that were starting to raise in popularity, and so I wanted to avoid playing Lee Sin and Burn, both of which I've played a fair bit of. So So right off the bat, the Spring deck, the Bilgewater Spring deck, still feels pretty good. I think it has decent matchups against specifically Burn. I think it's okay in that matchup. I think that one's much more of a coin flippy matchup, but I'd have to play it a bit more to really confidently say that. But having played both sides of that matchup a few times, I think it tends to be more of a coin flippy matchup. So that's pretty good for it right off the bat. I think it would struggle the most against probably the Lee Sin deck, since it doesn't have a lot of great ways to deal with it. Basically, you're just hoping for Tahm Kench and devouring the Lee Sin, and hoping that you can thread that through their removal and buffs so that Tahm Kench can actually live and eat the Lee Sin. And then hopefully you can keep Tahm Kench alive so they don't get the Lee Sin back. But I think it could go alright because they don't have a great way of dealing with your cards, but their combo tends to be a little bit quicker than the Star Spring combo. So I think that's the more concerning matchup. But I think this deck is still pretty solid. I think it's a little weird that everyone stopped playing it because I think it is kind of hard to interact with. I don't think a ton of decks are running ways to deal with Star Spring. So I think the deck is in a solid spot. And if you're looking for a very unique kind of deck where you can be a little bit aggro, a little bit combo, then I think this is a fun deck to play. I'll probably play more of it. I haven't really taken it out for a big spin in ranked yet because I've mostly been on Burn and Lee Sin and a couple other decks I messed around with like Banner Scouts, but I think it's still in a really good spot. TF Swain is more of the meta deck that we played, the mid-range deck. I think that deck's in a decent spot. I think its removal is really, really good in the meta right now, so I think that's pretty strong. I actually had to record a handful of videos, though, before I got it. I think that might have been my third or fourth video, because for some reason, we could not find removal to save our life. Like, the very first game I got with that I played was against Spider Aggro, which is incredibly TF Swain favored, because everything about that's insane. If I can get, like, Dreadway Deckhand, get a barrel, and then TF with red card, that just completely destroys everything their deck is trying to do. And Death's Hand is really good against a lot of different things, and there's just a number of good ways to kill Elise, etc. Like, that deck is so favored in that matchup, and I found not a single removal spell the entire game. Like, I don't even know what to say. I had all 8 costs, and I had no TF. I had, like, Swain Leviathan plus House Spider, and I think maybe Arachnid Sentry. And I just kept drawing, like, Riptide Rex, second Leviathan, like, just crazy things. So, weird that I had to play so many games to get a game of TF Swain where it actually did what that deck is designed to do. But we got there eventually. It's definitely still a good deck. I think it might struggle against things like Lee Sin. I think that's a matchup that's going to be a little bit harder for it to pull off, because it shouldn't have many good ways of killing Lee Sin, essentially. The addition of the new Scorched Landscape or whatever, that card is phenomenal. I think that's a great new addition, and I think it's much better than what Guillotine did in the deck prior, because it gives you an answer to things like the Star Spring deck, but it can also be a great answer to Lee Sin if they don't have a counterspell for it, or Bastion, essentially. So I think that card's really great for that matchup, too. So that's definitely a nice addition to the deck that's quite good. And it's definitely a fun deck if you're looking for something that can be a little bit aggro, a little bit control-y, a little bit mid-rangey. It's a mid-range deck, but it can feel like playing either of the other two matchups, depending on what you're playing. Then Discard Aggro, that's something I've seen go up in play rate considerably over especially the last day. It definitely spiked. A lot of people were playing it, and it's definitely a rough matchup for a number of decks that I played. It's very scary with both the Lee Sin deck and the Bilgewater Burn deck, because it can be faster. I'm not a huge fan of it, though, because I played 2 games and lost both of them for this video, and I just went with the one that showcases the deck the best. But Withering Wail has gone up in play rate quite a bit, because it's pretty good against Bilgewater Burn, but it's insane against Discard Aggro. One Withering Wail can undo like 4 turns of progress, essentially. So I think the deck is very fragile, but it can do well against some of the meta decks like Lee Sin and Bilgewater Burn. But if Deep Monsters, for example, starts to go up in play rate, that should just shred a deck like Discard Aggro. So there's a toss-up, and I mean, I didn't find Jinx, and Jinx is the biggest card in that deck, so Jinx definitely improves the deck's performance in so many levels because it's very hard to kill Jinx compared to other threats in the deck, so that's a little bit of a grain of salt, but basically the deck seems a little bit inconsistent. There's a lot of bad draws because, like, top decking the Challenger 0-2 is really bad for it, usually. There's sometimes when that'll be good, but, like, once they've cleared your board and you draw, like, a crowd favorite, that's really bad. There's just a lot of really bad draws that can happen in that deck, so you just have to keep a really aggressive hand and hope that's enough, or hope that you keep drawing into gas, but I don't know. It seems like Bilgewater Burn, but a little more fragile. But it will just win games out of nowhere because of how fast it is. So it is, if you're looking for an aggro deck that's going to get under things like Lee Sin, but you don't want to play the Bilgewater Burn deck, the Discard Aggro deck's a very good deck to run instead then. And then Deep Monsters, man, I forgot how fun it is to play that deck. I love that deck, and it's been quite a while. I think it's still not in necessarily a great spot. I think the Lee Sin deck is just really problematic for it, to be honest, and that's kind of what's holding it back, is that they didn't nerf Lee Sin, and they let him basically run over the meta another week. If they nerf Lee Sin, I could definitely see Deep Monsters spiking. I think it's perfectly fine into Bilgewater Burn. I think anything into Bilgewater Burn is a coin flip because Bilgewater Burn is so consistent and can get there so quickly through a lot of different things. But I think Deep Monsters is one of the better decks set to fight it, as well as the Freljord Shadow Island decks that have been popping up. So I think Deep Monsters could be really good into that. I think Slaughterdock is a great addition to the deck. It's a little sad to be not seeing Atrocity played much, but I think that's a big problem with the Lee Sin deck, is that you have to have some sort of answer. You have to have the 3 Vengeances, so you could Vengeance the Lee Sin, but it's going to be incredibly hard to get a Vengeance to resolve against Lee Sin. So it's kind of a concession to that deck and kind of not good enough, but it is still, the deck can handle the rest of the meta well. It just has to dodge the Lee Sin matchup, I think. So it's definitely a fun deck if you're looking for something a little more mid-rangey, control-y, with lots of life gain to deal with burn. And it's a little bit of a combo aspect to it too, where you're trying to build the deep puzzles. So that's always fun too. It's a really fun deck. I love Deep Monsters. I think this new version's great. So yeah, those are a couple of the decks that have been emerging in the meta, aside from obviously the big ones like Freljord, Shadow Isles, Trundle decks that are usually either some variant of War Mother or just hard control deck that gains a bunch of life and then tries to win with some big win condition like Trundle or Celestials. And I wanted to avoid Lee Sin combo decks because we're all tired of it. I know, I get it. We're all tired of the deck. It's way too strong. I can't believe it made it through the last patch without being nerfed. And Bilgewater Burn, I didn't want to... I was tempted to do a game of Bilgewater Burn in this episode because my list has changed a bit since Friday's episode. I'm running 3 Lounging Lizards now instead of Monkey Idol, and I'm running 3 Crackshot Corsairs instead of Captain Farron plus a 1 of Jack plus a 1 of Decimate. So I was tempted to do it just to showcase the new version I've been playing, but I know everyone's tired of Burn. I've done so many Burn episodes in the last couple of weeks, so I just really didn't want to do the deck again. I don't want to bore you guys, so no Burn in this episode. But yeah, Burn is still great. Lee Sin is still great. Freljord, Shadow Isles decks are great. Banner Scouts is okay. Yeah, these are 4 more decks that you could consider playing that I think can do quite well in ranked, and I think are quite good pickups if you want to grind. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment below, and subscribe for more videos just like